What lies on the horizon, horizon before us? My heartbeat calls your name. Can anybody feel the same? Covered by the twilight, it's alright. Tell me, when does it end? My heartbeat calls your name. Covered by the starlight, it's alright.
Alright, welcome to another Ask or Tell session. This one is about Microsoft Power Apps and Dataverse, but not just Power Apps and Dataverse, but Power Apps and Dataverse in Teams. My name is Mitch. I'm a productivity consultant at Wortel. This is my first time hosting a session like this, so be gentle with me in the comments of the chat. Luckily, I don't have to do it alone because I have my colleague here with me, Jeremy. Introduce yourself to people.
So it's not the first time for me who have watched my previously streams with Twan. I brought a new colleague with me to host this event with me. My name is Jeremy Levoye, as you can see underneath in the screen. I have a new way of introducing myself, and that is if you can ask the question, can it make it easier? You can. I'm the right person to ask a question to, and the answer is probably yes.
I usually have a panic attack when people ask that, but luckily you are here. So yeah, we're going to talk about Power Apps and Dataverse for Microsoft Teams. And this session we have some really interesting topics, but what would really make it more fun is if you guys at home or wherever you are would participate in this Ask Portal through the chat. So if you have any questions or any remarks, please let them know. They'll appear on my screen and we can discuss them as well. What we'll also do is you can win a prize. So yeah, leave your message in the chat, and at the end of the session, we'll announce a winner who might win an Amazon gift card. So something to hold on to as well. Yeah, but before we get to that, we have to dive a bit deeper into Power Apps and Dataverse. Yeah.
But that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, that's what we're here for. So we've had some sessions before, or at least you hosted some sessions before regarding the Power Platform, and this is like a new aspect of it, or at least a new, different dynamic than the other sessions that we had before. So maybe could you take us through like a recap of what we've discussed before, so everybody has like the same context and is on the same page before we continue?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. I have brought also a presentation with me. And I indeed wanted to perform a quick recap for the persons who didn't watch my live streams, the previous one. If you didn't, I can highly recommend, but I made them myself, to watch them. But here's a quick recap what we talked about. I'm doing a quick recap of what is Power Platform, fairly quick. In my screen you can see what the products are that are within the Power Platform. And what we are going to have a look at is the Power Apps. Power Apps, again, like my last session, is a tool for IT or citizen developers, how Microsoft call them, to create fairly easy your own app with Lego-like building blocks. So you can fairly easy create your own app by drag and drop, and some code you can make it as hard as you want at the end with your app. And in the screen you can also see some things that we do in our work.
Okay, so I, as a productivity consultant, often work, or I touch upon the Power Platform as well, and sometimes with Power Apps. Would you say, because right now I'm thinking it's maybe a bit too complex for me, so I just use Power Apps with maybe like a SharePoint data source or anything like that. Am I right for using that? If I say I want it to be easy or as easy as possible?
So there are different options. You can choose for SharePoint to use it as your data source. I know why you're asking this question, because Dataverse is a data source. We are going to touch upon later.
Yeah.
But yes, there's not a right or wrong with using SharePoint as data source for your Power App.
Okay.
In fact, before Dataverse for Teams, that was my most used connector within Power Apps and Power Automate as data source.
Okay, and well, you've built a lot of apps, certainly a lot more than I have. What is something you're really proud of, like an app you've built that you're really proud of, or you think, oh, that's a fun one I think back to?
Yeah, so that's a good question. All of them, of course.
That's the best answer, yeah.
Yeah, but no, the one I'm most proud of is one I created myself. It's one where you can reserve your own workplace, but also see the floor plan on which sheet you can choose you are able to work on, and it's available or not.
Cool. That's awesome. All right.
But to continue my recap, we talked in our last session about Power Apps, how you can get started with it. So we assume you have watched it again, or have some knowledge about Power Apps to get started with it.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So if you haven't watched it before, watch it right after this one, not during this one, because yeah, this one is live, so that's cooler. Yeah, so that's a recap. And I really like the part where you explain a bit more about apps you've built and things you can do with it. But we also like to be inspired, right? So what we've done is in the description of the stream, you will find a link to a Power App Challenge website from Wortel. There you can leave behind your ID or your suggestion for a Power App.
And after this session, we'll have a look at it. And if we see an interesting one or the most interesting one, we'll build it. And we'll probably host an Ask or Tell session about that specific app as well. So yeah, make sure to have a look and to leave your bright ideas over there so that we can make something happen from that. All right, let's dive a bit deeper into Dataverse, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
I'm not really familiar with Dataverse, but isn't it the same as CDS, or is it related to CDS in any way, or?
Yeah, so previously it was called CDS, and Microsoft performed renaming, rebranding, and calls it now Dataverse at
Okay.
this moment. So there's not that only thing that happened, that name rebranding. Some other things happened on the background. For example, things are called differently. Right now, I can't remember even how it's called previously, but right now, when you have a data source within your Dataverse, it's called a table right now, and previously it was called something different. Yeah, so
There's some name changes and a rebranding that happened.
yeah.
Okay, well, perfect. Good for me to know. Yeah, but take us a bit deeper into the Dataverse if you like.
Yeah, so what I did and how what we are going to see in my next slide also is I did some research for you guys at home, and what I want to show you is what the differences are between my most used connector, SharePoint lists and SharePoint documents, Teams for Dataverse, Dataverse. Why is it called Dataverse for Teams? Because there is a difference
Okay.
between Dataverse for Teams and Dataverse. Why should you consider it? And what are the advantages? What the advantages are above the other two?
Okay.
If there are not any questions so far in the chat, I would like to continue.
Yeah, by all means continue, and I'll let you know if anything comes in.
Oh, okay. So first of all, I forgot. Some people have never seen Dataverse before, so let me touch upon that before I continue.
Okay.
Dataverse for Teams and Dataverse is a solution, like I said before, where you can store your data in. So it's like SharePoint lists for who knows SharePoint lists, SQL Server, in an Excel document, things like that, where you can store your data. I also have an image in my presentation about how it looks, but I can also show it in my live demo environment. Maybe it speaks more that way. So what I did here is I created a demo environment, and I also have some environments already pre-built for this presentation.
Okay.
But for now I'm going to create a new one. Why did I create an environment before this presentation? Is because sometimes it takes a little bit longer to create an environment. That was one of the first things I saw, but you get also notified of that, is that when you're creating a new app for a new team, it may take some time, it's ready. Sometimes it's like instantly. Sometimes I've seen like up to 2 hours, but maybe it was a bug at that time, or maybe a heavy load because I was within training at that point. But I'm going to show it to you right now. Cool. And why I wanted to show it is because when you're creating a new app, you have to choose a team within where you want to create your Dataverse environment, because there is Teams for Power Apps for Teams and Dataverse for Teams will create a new environment where everything is stored. So here I'm choosing my engineering team.
And that automatically gives them access as well to the Dataverse and the and Power App? Oh, that's cool. So you don't need to have grant separate permissions or have some difficult rights management operation behind it to make it work. Yeah,
so here also I see some advantages in compared to Dataverse or SharePoint, especially SharePoint. Because here when the user is member or owner of the team, it has also access to the data and the Power Apps or the other solutions you created within this environment.
Okay.
I'm done talking right now, and it's a great timing because my app is finished.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
can start naming my first app in this environment. I'm calling it very unique test one. Most used name in my
Probably,
environment. And after that, there is an app available in my environment for this team, and also Dataverse in the background.
Yeah, so that makes it very easy to manage access. Is that one of the, well, we will probably elaborate a bit more about that later, but is that one of the main benefits of working this way in regards to maybe setting up your Dataverse separate from Teams? Or
So no, it's called Dataverse for Teams. Because you have to use it within Teams.
okay,
I'll touch upon that later. I remember I forgot to explain something how you get here, and that's the great thing about live sessions. You want to tell everything.
yeah,
And
it's very spontaneous.
yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. So I will touch upon that later.
Yeah.
I first want to finish what I was trying to do.
Yeah, go ahead.
And showing how to get started with Dataverse in Teams.
Mhm.
What I did is I exited my app after naming it, and I pressed build on top. And here you see the environments is created. So right now I have an environment for my Dataverse for Teams. That's the one I already prepared for this demo.
Yeah.
But also the engineering thing I just created. And here you see my test app. When I press see all, we can see here tables. So like I mentioned, it's called tables right now.
Yeah.
And here I can start creating Excel-like tables.
Yeah.
So first I have to give the name. Again, test table 1. And I'm pressing create. And after a few seconds, table is created. Some default columns are being created, like who created this record, when was it created, etc. And now we can also add our own columns.
Well, if I look at it, it to me it maybe looks even a bit more user friendly than SharePoint lists, but that's maybe just my opinion. But
Yeah, because I can see what you mean. Because in SharePoint you have to go to settings. Maybe it sounds a little bit scary, but there are also far more options within settings. And here you just have add column.
yeah,
It
I like
adds the column.
simplicity. Yeah.
So here, for example, and that's also where I'll touch upon later in the presentation, the differences between SharePoint and Dataverse is you have more data types here. First, let me give the name brand. And here, as you can see, far more.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like for example, currencies. It's not only just a field, a numeric field, and you say I want to have a currency markup on it. No, it's a little bit more.
Okay.
Languages, time zone, things like that.
Yeah.
So I wanted text, but my computer wanted decimal number. Let me create it, for example. Don't forget to save table. I forgot it sometimes. And here I've created my first column.
And all through the Teams interface, right?
Yeah.
That's
So-
cool.
So that's one of the points I forgot to get started with. First of all, out of my enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Yeah.
Yes, that's the word I
Yep.
was looking for. So once you want to get started within Teams, with your Power Apps and Dataverse for Teams, you're going to your Teams client and install the Power Apps for Teams or Power Automate for Teams. Right now I'm using Power Apps for Teams to manage all my data. You do that by going to your client or web browser interface, press the 3 dots on the left, and here you can press more apps. After that, it's funny, Power Apps shows already here up, but I'm going to search for it anyway on the top left. Power Apps, you see it right here.
Yeah.
Press it, press install, and it will it's being installed at that moment in your Teams environment.
And do you need to buy additional licenses to make this happen, or is it do you have to expand your current Office 365 subscription to make this happen?
So it depends on what you already have,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons I'm hosting this presentation. Not many people I've spoken to know this, because you have SharePoint that's within your enterprise licensing, and when you want to look at Dataverse, it's a different licensing normally.
Okay.
But you have Dataverse for Teams. It's kind of a light version of Dataverse, so you can use it within Teams, and then it's free. So you have to have your enterprise licensing, for example.
Yeah.
There are more licensing options, but enterprise is one of them.
Yeah.
And then you can get started. So not additional costs there.
That's cool. This is what I like to hear. No additional cost. So
Yeah.
that makes me happy. Are there any other things included within the free area of what else is free?
Nice to have within your license.
Yeah.
So
No, because a lot of people don't know this, so there might be something that we can trigger or inspire people to look into.
yeah. So one other I found out is that also so what I told you about Dataverse for Teams applies also to Power Virtual Agents.
Oh wow.
So normally you have to buy an additional licensing for that. But if you can use Power Virtual Agents, it's a mouthful, for Teams, then it should be within your licensing if you use it within your team.
Oh wow. So you can actually create chatbots inside of your team.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And
So
all
that-
for free. So that's
Not free, you're already paying for your
okay.
license.
Yeah. No additional cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the correct way.
So you're asking me some questions. How do I get the most out of my workday or my licensing? I have another tip for you and the viewers at home. On my screen right now, I have my Teams in the web browser. But if you're using it within your client, you can maybe have some time that you're working, some colleagues chatting you, calling you. When you're doing it within one window, you're going to chat, app is on the background, gone, you're forgetting what you're doing. Can be annoying. So my tip for the viewers and you at home is when you have your Teams client, it only works in Team client, you can press the right button, and then you have the option pop out, and then your Power Apps app, your built environment app, will open in a new window, and then you can have your Teams chat and calls in a separate window, and your Power App that you're creating at that moment also in a separate window.
Oh, that's cool, because I often have that I'm going around through files or through chat messages or team messages, and if you have to reload your Power Apps again, that can be a bit time consuming, or at least something you're not waiting for.
Yeah.
But I see this question over here about the performance. So if you use Power Apps and Dataverse inside of Teams, does it have any different way of performing instead of going to the browser, or a different way to going to build your Power Apps?
No, the only difference what you can see is, like I mentioned, your way of working. So I have to use a pop-out window instead of multiple tabs. That's one main difference. And what I also noticed is that the Power Apps environment within Teams is ahead of development of the normal Power Apps build environment.
Oh, how do you notice that? Is there some secret extra buttons or commands
So
you can use?
there's a UI change upcoming.
Yeah.
So I first noticed it within Teams. It was already changed on that side, and now in some environments I already see also the changes are enrolled within the normal Power Apps development environment. But I also heard that my assumption is confirmed from some sources I have, but are some sources. It's not officially. I didn't saw it was officially written somewhere.
Okay, so
Written
but
somewhere.
that makes it like kind of like a very great way for you to like experiment and maybe to test something that you're building, test some new functionalities before maybe taking it into production.
Yeah.
So that and it's all no extra additional cost. So that's
Yeah.
even
Yeah, you're
that's
saying
even
it
better.
correctly
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. I had to keep it in mind to not make the same mistake again. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but and also a difference is, and what I very like very much about it is when I open my app,
Mm-hmm.
is the date and time picker.
Okay.
So right now I'm reopening my test one app, and
Mhm.
when I insert the date and time picker, it looks a little bit different compared to the normal URL.
Oh, that's a lot more user friendly than like the big thing that appears.
Yeah,
Big,
and you have
pop-up.
not on the big one. You don't have to, you must not forget pressing OK after you made a
Oh, yeah.
selection.
Yeah.
That's one of the feedback points I had in previous app I built for customers.
Mm-hmm.
Here you press and it's already put in. The value is already put in.
Yeah. Cool.
So let me get back to the presentation. If there are any questions so far.
I see some coming in, but I'll save them for later.
Okay,
because
because I'm going to answer them in my presentation.
I hope so, or at least it's more suited for that discussion, so you don't have to get ahead of the
Okay.
presentation. Yeah.
Okay. So my next slide is what I want to get to
Mhm.
eventually.
Okay.
Is this list I made, what the differences are for my most used connector, SharePoint lists,
Mm-hmm.
Teams for Dataverse and Dataverse.
Mm-hmm.
Take a screenshot for the people at home
Yeah.
if you want to. What I try to do is make it as transparent and as easy as possible to follow what's happening and what the differences are, and also help you make the right choice which data source you are going to use
Okay.
for your solution. If you are considering Dataverse,
Mhm.
for example, that's one tip for me, from me to you at home and you. If you consider using Dataverse, but 1 million rows because that's the capacity of
Mhm.
Dataverse for Teams,
Yeah.
is for now enough, but not enough in the future. It's fairly easy to upgrade your Dataverse for Teams to Dataverse with one push of a button.
Oh. Okay, so you can just say, okay, I want to upgrade, and then you're upgraded.
So, or you have some other capabilities that are within Dataverse, for example, mobile offline.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the capability of Dataverse for Teams, but is within Dataverse.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you're creating an app, and in the future you want that capability. You can start with the proof of concept
Yeah.
with just online capabilities, and later upgrade to Dataverse if the proof of concept is successful.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So another one point I want to quick mention is the capacity of SharePoint.
Yeah.
There is listed here 30 million rows.
Mm-hmm.
It is the capacity, but for the most users know that around 5,000 items, things start behaving differently. You have to work around some things within Power Apps or Power Automate,
Mm-hmm.
and nested folders stop working, and you have to write your own code within Power Automate for that, for example.
Okay.
Things like that. The query columns, up to 12 columns, is also a thing that's different within Dataverse and SharePoint lists.
Oh.
So there's some consideration you
Mhm.
have to do when choosing the right data source.
Okay. And now I think you're diving a bit deeper into the differences between these three, like the SharePoint list, the Dataverse, and the Dataverse for Teams.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you take a look at other data sources, like maybe SQL or something like that? Is there like a different consideration to keep in mind in regards to using maybe SQL or something like that?
Yeah, so first of all, licensing. That's one of the points. It's a premium connector within the Power Platform,
Okay.
SQL. What we here see is SharePoint lists is within your E3 or E1 or E5, you name it, licensing. it's within it. So the Power Apps for Office 365 licensing, that's how it's called. Dataverse for Teams also. And to compare Dataverse for Teams, like apples with apples, I added Dataverse. SQL paid is also a great solution, but you have to keep in mind what are the capabilities of that? Do I need them?
Oh yeah.
And if you don't need them, why should you use it? Maybe if you have it already, then go for it. But there are some additional costs then.
Yeah. And I don't like hearing additional costs. So, no additional
It
costs.
depends. It depends. If you need it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Continue. Those were the questions I have right now.
So, are there any questions in the chat? Just before I continue.
No, you can continue.
Okay.
Maybe later.
So to make it easier, I created a slide to and make it black and white to really show the difference between Dataverse and Dataverse for Teams. As you can see, I have here all the features of Dataverse that are there, but not in Teams. You see some differences between, for example, the mobile offline capability.
Okay.
That's not in, like I mentioned, in Dataverse for Teams, but in Dataverse.
How would that mobile offline capability? I haven't heard that one before. Well, how would you use that, or is there? Yeah, when would that be something to use?
So, for example, and there's a real life scenario I had. It was for a company that was towing big ships out of the sea into the port.
Okay.
Before they left, they downloaded the log file they needed to fill in on the trip. And on the sea, there was not a good, reliable reception at that moment. So they wanted to download the data offline, go out in the sea, get the ship back to the port, and then they can submit all the data they've added to the log on the way or back.
Yeah. Okay. Hard to think about locations where you don't have an internet connection, but out at sea, that's pretty good reason. Yeah.
Or in the plane. It's still not, as far as I know, normal to have your Wi-Fi on. So that's also.
Or they say you have Wi-Fi connection, but you have no real internet connection because it's so slow or it doesn't perform that well. Yeah. Yeah. Good one. I saw a question coming in. Are there some features that you recommend to start looking at?
So I'm curious if it's about Teams for Dataverse. Teams is also possible, the question. Or Power Apps. Do you know that?
No specification, so just aim wide.
So can you repeat the question? Maybe I can fill it in.
Yeah. Are there some features that you recommend to start looking at?
So if I'm looking at Power Apps, but then you can have a look at my previous session about how to get started with Power Apps. At the end, I gave some tips how to get started and where you should start. But to summary, that is just think of a process you want to automate or made simpler, and start small.
Okay, I got the addition. It's for Power Apps.
Ah, okay. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
If not, please let me know. I really like to answer your question, so you can get started with Power Apps.
Yeah. And after this Ask Quartel, they can maybe make it a marathon and watch the previous Ask Quartel about Power Apps.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And if not your answer is answered, please reach out to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's another question, because let's say you upgrade your Dataverse for Teams to Dataverse.
Yes.
And then you think, oh, I need to cut costs, or maybe I overstepped, or it's not necessary for this large package or additional costs. Is there can you easily revert back to Dataverse for Teams?
So far as I know, it's not possible. It's a one-way trip.
Okay.
To say it like that. But you can imagine there are some workarounds about for that. Yeah. So quick, but it's top of my mind right now. What you can do is create a new environment with Dataverse for Teams, and then copy the data to your Dataverse for Teams.
Okay.
But you have really to be sure you're not using one of the features you're already using.
Yeah, that would be a waste. Okay. Yeah, that were the questions for now.
Okay. So now, right now, we talked about all the differences between Dataverse, Dataverse for Teams,
Mhm.
what Power Apps is, what Dataverse is. So I hope I brought some knowledge into your life.
Always.
How we Dutch people like to say it's free, it's gratis, but within your licensing.
Mhm.
So have a look at it.
Cool.
I have also some demonstrations for you, for the people who want to view it.
Yeah.
I've prepared a demonstration how do I create Dataverse. Now we already saw that.
Mhm.
How do you create it? But how do I connect it to my Power App?
Mhm.
There's another one big point of attention I
Mhm.
want to mention within my demo. And also, how do I create data within Dataverse for Teams, but also from within my app, etc.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
really quick, I want to, fairly quick, because it's very important to me, show you a big point of attention,
Mhm.
and that is where can I use Power Apps for Teams, Dataverse for Teams, and yeah, where can I use that?
Mhm.
So what I've prepared is an app, right to the point, an app. Where is it? Demo app 1. Here I'm logged in with user 1. Here's an image to prove that. On top right corner, that has all the licensing
Mhm.
at his disposal. And right here, I didn't want to build it, but I wanted to play it. So I'm going to my team. Dataverse General Demo App 1. It's loading right now.
Mhm.
I'm going to refresh it because it was open on the background. Maybe.
I really like this feature that it's already connected to your that inherits the permissions and rights from your team, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you create like an all company team that's dynamically being keeping up the member list. You automatically also grant them access and permissions to your app and the underlying data source, of course. So that will mean that you don't have to
Manage all those access rights,
Yeah.
extra rights. Yeah, so that's also one thing I like about Dataverse for Teams compared to SharePoint lists. Because when you have an app that's
Mhm.
connected with SharePoint
Mhm.
lists, you must not forget to share also the data sources, maybe it's multiple sites,
Yeah.
with all those users who are connecting through the app.
Yeah.
If you forget that to launch the app work in first sight it works fine, but when they want to add data or read some data, they were getting an error, and then they will go to the IT department. The app doesn't work.
Yeah.
It works, but you don't have access to the data.
Yeah, so yeah, you can only make a first impression once. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I that's for me very important. If you introduce something new like an app, you want it to work right away and without any hassle or any extra things you need to do or tickets you need to make saying it's broken. Yeah.
And here, when you are a member or owner of the team, you
Mhm.
also directly have access to the app and the data behind it.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's also for the one who asked the question, how do I get started with Power Apps? Fairly easy. This is also one tip of me on top of the previous live stream. I did mention this one there. Get started with Power Apps within Teams, within Dataverse, because the right sharing of your app is less complicated.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. When I was getting started with Power Apps, there's always a pop-up somewhere saying I need to authenticate or you need to.
And you forgot
connect,
it,
yeah.
or things like that, or
And then
too
you're-
much rights.
You're testing it with a different account, and then you have to go back and say, "Oh, where did I go wrong?" So yeah, this is a very good, easy way to go about it.
Yeah. So one of the again points of attention I
Mhm.
wanted to mention is, in my app finally load
Yeah.
in the meantime, is that when I have my app, again this uses all the licensing. I can use it right here. Open records. When I press this globe, we'll go and open this in my web browser. The app works fine.
Yeah.
It works. But if you don't have the additional licensing, here I'm switched to another user. No, don't want notifications. Thank you. Here again I have the app. I will quickly refresh the browser to show I'm not cheating or anything. Demo app 1. If this user opens the app in the browser, it will get a prompt of that it needs an additional licensing.
Oh yeah.
So that's how Microsoft is promoting use of Teams and Power Apps within Teams, and also monitoring that. When you want to use your app with outside of Teams, then you should consider upgrading to Dataverse, just for the normal version, or SharePoint lists,
Yeah.
or upgrade your licensing.
Okay, but I can imagine like Power Apps are also being used for like mobile users. Mobile users would still be able to access the data through Teams, or would they could they also install the Power app on their phone and access it from there?
So when they install, like normally before Dataverse for Teams and Power Apps for Teams, they will install the Power Apps from Microsoft, and they launch the app. Right now, if they do that with an app that's built within Power Apps for Teams, and with the data source that's premium behind it, so no, not premium, but the Dataverse for Teams, to make things complicated and more complicated. When the app has that, they will also get a prompt like this. They need the premium licensing.
Okay.
When they want to use their app, they can use the Power Apps app of the Teams Power app.
Okay.
So it's like a little bit potato,
Yeah.
like we call it in Dutch.
Yeah.
You use an app to launch your app that's built by your company.
Okay.
So you go to your Teams app, to your team, open the app, and in my opinion, maybe it's more easy. Anyway.
You have one app for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Now
easy.
you have really one app for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Microsoft really likes that too. Put everything on Teams. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
But then you can really quick switch between your calls, your Teams chat,
Yeah.
book a meeting, or a workplace seat, things like that.
Yeah. Perfect.
So I'm going back to my develop user here. Here's my test app I created a few moments ago. It's loading. Big app. So what I wanted to show is I showed you at home and you, Mitch, how I created a Dataverse table. I'm going to connect it right now in my app by pressing the data icon, add data, and here I have my test table. And right now it's connected. It's not doing anything right now at this moment, but it's connected. So when I insert, for example, a form, edit form.
Very curious to see if a brand appears because we added that custom column, right?
Yeah. So as you can see, very little, but I will set it to new. This will also make it something easier. As you can see, brand appears right now.
Perfect. Okay.
So what are you going to do if you want to add some columns? You're going to data, edit data, and here you can add fairly quick some extra columns with your desired name. Do you have an example for me?
Category maybe or something like that. Or
I typed it wrong, I know.
that's okay. That often when you create test apps or anything, test demos, demo files, it's always some random.
So
wording.
here I created my own category.
Okay.
And I can also add rows within the app.
Yeah.
Now, so test 1, brand, high, and here I can make a selection of choice 1.
Is it easy to, let's say you have like your administration in Excel or maybe like a SharePoint list? Can you easily integrate it into or convert it to a Dataverse for Teams that you can just copy paste it or
In my
import
opinion, yes.
Okay.
But it depends on how skilled you are with IT. So
Okay.
if this is already something you know, I have to take some time and get to know it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start right away with this. Just start like I do right now, just with a simple column, add your data, and
Take it from there.
concern yourself later on with the data transfer.
Yeah. All right.
What I wanted to show here is, as you can see, I can add fairly quick some extra columns, but I've not all my options at my disposal right now.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
So if you are missing some, for example, relationship options, you can go to, and that's a little bit confusing.
Okay.
So bear with me.
Yeah.
I'm right now in build. If I'm saving my app, because I like my change, I'm going to home, again to build. I'm getting a new a different window. I'm going to the right environment. So it's engineering team, see all. And here I have my table again. And here I can add a new column with all the other options.
Oh, okay.
So if you're missing an option, I thought auto numbering was not present in the Power Apps look and feel, but it was. Someone mentioned it last time. I said that. So there are some other ones, like you can see. This is
pretty long.
much more longer than within Power Apps, but it's here. You can find it.
Okay, so you have to kind of dig for it, or you have to go a bit through a different route to get to those extra options.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that Microsoft will change in the future, or?
Maybe. My feedback would be that you have you need a new tab on top, like manage and build, something like that.
Okay. Cool.
That was it, I think. If there are not any questions.
I see one question over here, and that's mainly like the bigger picture, because the Power Platform, which Power Apps is a part of, it really drives towards like citizen developers. So just everyday people that are working behind their desk and think, oh well, maybe I can build something for myself or for my team to make us a bit more productive. Would you recommend them starting with Dataverse, or is there something else that do you think that's maybe a bit too technical for them, or not at all? That's also an answer, of course.
No, again, look on what your use case is. If you meet the requirements and the limitations of your data source, if it is within the capabilities of the data source, go for it.
Okay.
Right now I would recommend again Dataverse for Teams, because it is fairly easy, everything is in one environment, etc. But if for example you exceed the 1 million rows, you know you're going to, but you don't want to pay for Dataverse, use SharePoint.
Okay.
For example.
Yeah.
But you really have to know what the limitations are of SharePoint.
Yeah. An end user probably won't need 1 million 1 million rows, but it's
no.
something
But
to take
if
into consideration.
you're storing all the data of your company,
Yeah.
like example, you have all your assets, for example, and exceeds 1 million.
Yeah.
You already know if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, that's true. All right. What I'm curious to know, this isn't the question that got set in, but what I'm curious to know is, you've built a lot of Power Apps, as we stated before at the start of this Ask or Tell session. Is there one app you've built where you think of right now and you say, okay, well, I might have been able to make it a lot easier, a lot better in Teams or in Dataverse in Teams?
Yeah.
And is there maybe an example you can give?
Yeah, sure there are. I'm thinking. So I want to pick one. So one was where I used SharePoint as a queue on the background and connected to Power Automate flow behind it. the solution was a wizard for users uploading the documents. So with like three questions, the solution knew what document was being uploaded or uploaded by the user to the app.
Yeah.
And all the other metadata was automatically filled in. I used SharePoint as a library on the background as queue because it was why. The reason why I did that was because the document was being transferred to a secured environment where it was only to the user was only able to read.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
Data is put in the list from Power Apps within user context to SharePoint in that case.
Yeah.
The user has only read writes on the destination where we wanted to have the files.
Yeah.
So we had to put a list in between
Okay.
where the user had writes.
The right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good example. I remember that when I started at Wortel, they asked me to build a Power App, and I was fairly new at it, but I was still in my probation time, so I was still in my startup period.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't brave enough to say no, so I said yes. But
Watch out what you're going to say.
yeah. No, this is all good. But I needed to build something with like complex relationships. So like you have a couple of tables that like reference to each other, and you have a lot of columns in each table. And after a while I was working on it, I found out, okay, well, I ran into view limits. I ran into I think the lookup functionality that also
Non-delegatable data.
yeah.
Data.
So, yeah. So that one really hurt because because of that I needed to pull the plug for my project. So that made me kind of sad, but. I think with what you told about Dataverse, that is something maybe we need to revisit that, and I need to step up my Power Apps game into make something within Teams even. Yeah, so that's super handy, super useful.
Yeah.
Cool.
So maybe if I can help you, please let me know.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely will. I definitely will. But also, if people at home have any questions or they just need to look you up or ask. Email at ask@wortel.nl so that they can ask the question, and then we can direct it to you, so you can use your big brain to help everybody along.
Yeah, or you.
Or me, yeah, definitely me. Yeah, I'll email ask_wortel as well for you.
No, that you can help the people
Oh,
who ask the questions.
Yeah. After this session, definitely. All right. So. I think that we're done, or unless you have something else to show or to tell. But those were all the questions we have as well. So let me see if I forgot anything on my screen. Yeah, if you have maybe people around you where you think that they might be able to benefit from this Ask Wortel session as well, this live stream will become like a recording that will be made available on the Wortel YouTube page. So you can forward it to them, or you can even direct them to us. We are pretty easy to find on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, by email, or just to our website, wortel.nl. Let's see. But we all also talked about a prize that you could win. So I see that the judges
behind the scenes,
the judges and the jury and the notary office came back with the result, and I see that Chantal won a nice prize. So Chantal, thank you for participating. Send us an email at ask@wortel.nl. To claim your prize, because we need to verify that it's you, of course, because nowadays on YouTube everybody has like different display names and stuff like that, so we'll do a thorough check to make sure it's really you. But come and claim your prize, and we'll be happy to send it your way. So I think that's it, right? So I think we're at the end of the live stream. We really hope that this session enables you guys to start with Dataverse and Power Apps for Teams. And be sure to stay tuned for another Ask Wortel session about Power Platform. I'll hopefully be there. Depends on how everybody thought this session went. Jeremy will most likely be there. So yeah, thank you for your time, for your patience, and yeah, really enjoy your evening and Power Apps and Dataverse for Teams. All right.